The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel is Thomas Senhuro. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom. How's it going?
Great. We will be talking about the Starship launch in a bit in our second segment. But first, yes. we have some other stuff we had planned to talk about first. If I'd known it was going to be as spectacular as it was, I would have planned for it to be the first thing we did. But we'll get to that. Just so stick around, folks. But I do have some feedback that we had from our recent episode on VR and the Oculus Quest, which I'm still using every day and having a lot of fun using. But Bill Norton sent an email. He said, "Thanks for the recent episode on VR and Oculus. Your experiences really make it a tempting purchase. I'm curious what augmented reality games or applications are available. Besides Pokemon Go, everything I've tried on my very limited Google Cardboard has been a disappointment or spam." So we did talk about a number of VR games that are available, and I just want to make a distinction, and I don't know whether... It seems it's a little unclear to me from Bill's email, but so VR and AR are two different things. VR, right, or virtual reality, is you only see the created environment in your headset, whereas AR is augmented reality, which is you're seeing your environment around you with virtual elements overlaid on it.
Right.
Which is what Pokemon Go does. Yeah.
Right, but he's also mentioning the Google Cardboard, which is sort of
VR.
And a VR, yeah. It's kind of a light step into the VR environment, which, yeah, I agree is very... If that's all you've experienced, then yes, you have not experienced VR.
Yeah, exactly.
In its fullness.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, because you got to hold it there and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
I've got a Google Cardboard. I've done it. It's what it is. It's a little cardboard box with a kind of eye lenses and an app you install on your phone. And then when you run the app, you put the phone in the cardboard thingy, and it kind of folds in. It's like origami, and then you hold it up to your face, and there's some cool stuff. We did like a Pluto flyby with it, and there was one where you're standing on top of the Freedom Tower in New York. I didn't like that one.
Oh, cool.
My son this was a few years ago, so he was like 6 or 7, and he had it on his face, and he's like, "Daddy, I'm a little scared." I'm like, "You can take it off your face, buddy. If you're scared, you don't have to hold it." Okay.
It's a good way to experience things that you wouldn't be able to stomach otherwise, right?
Yes, exactly. But it's a far cry from what you can get in the Oculus Quest VR space. It is miles above it. I'm trying to think of like a comparison, of the quality wise. It's like watching a movie on your phone compared to on a big 4K TV. I mean, it's really, in fact, it's almost literally that. Now that I think about it, because it is the same thing.
Yeah, I would say I was really surprised that VR has taken off as quickly as it has. This has been in a space that I've been interested in for a while, and I was a proponent for AR for a long time because it was just more feasible. Like it wasn't feasible to get the tech into someone's home to have a true VR experience, but the Oculus really does seem to be filling that space in a really impressive way, and I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic.
I mean, they got it all into the headset, and that was the key. As soon as you were untethered from a PC, it changed the quality of it, and it is good. I mean, it's not perfect. There's still ways they can go on things, and lag and sometimes that sort of thing. But Vader Immortal, oh my gosh, that is so much fun to stand up against Vader. But things like, so we talked about some games in that discussion. Sports Scramble is a fun one we talked about. Vader Immortal, Walkthrough Mini Golf was another one I've played. Bait is one we've just started. The other ones are all see, Sports Criminal and Vader Immortal you have to pay for. Walkthrough Mini Golf I think was free. Bait is free with in-app purchase, like a lot of these freemium games, but you can play for fun, and Bait is just you sitting in a chair, and I do it sitting down, fishing for crazy fish. It's just it's relaxing. When you can't go out,
right.
it's winter where I am. It's great. But there's all kinds of things. There's first-person shooters, if that's your thing. There's dance competition ones, like all the different kinds of games there are. There are some things I wish were there. And like flight simulators are there are some arcade-ish ones, but nothing really good.
Well, I think Microsoft's moving that way. They're trying to kind of move their flight sim into that space. There's a really cool art space for it too. That we just watched on Disney Plus. There's the making of this Frozen virtual reality scape that you can download, and it's like it's called Myth, and it tells the background story of all of the spirits and all of the things that happen in Frozen, but they modeled it kind of after Fantasia, but as a VR experience, it's added because it tells the story and it also moves you through. So like things will happen that will make you naturally want to move your eyes to another part, and then that other part has the next part of the story that's ready to go, kind of loading in on it. So it's a neat experience, I think, that I'm looking forward to trying out once we get an AR or a VR set.
One of the things I did was YouTube has a lot of 360 VR videos, so they're not really virtual reality. They're really like 360. It's an immersive video though, and I did one which was a ride through of the Rise of the Resistance ride at Galaxy's Edge at Disney World, and like you're literally sitting there in this guy's lap. On the ride.
Right.
Kind of. It's a little uncomfortable. We got to know each other well. No, but you experience the ride, and it was so cool, and it makes me want to go, which is a great thing for Disney, And there's a lot of that sort of thing in there. I'm trying to think of one of the things I should mention is with the flight sim, there are ways to connect PC games, so stuff running on your Windows PC. There's a thing called PC Link so if you plug your Oculus into your PC, it will do VR from the PC, and so Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can fly it that way on the headset. I don't have a Windows PC, so I can't do that. But it would be awesome to have something in the game, or even better, Star Wars Squadrons would be really nice.
Right. Well, yeah. I was wondering, does it connect with Steam games that already have that capability as well? I didn't know. It could connect with PC.
I'm not sure. That's actually a good question. I'm not sure if you can do Steam VR through the PC link into it. I don't see why not, but I'd have to look more. I mean, it's fascinating. It's interesting that Facebook is in this space. They decided that this was a thing to do. I'm curious what their play is on this, and I'm curious to see what other companies are going to do, because Apple is working on stuff. Google is working on stuff. Apple seems to be, from what we hear, it's all rumors, but Apple seems to be going more toward the AR thing and making it more like your watch and your phone. It's just another way of doing stuff in the world as opposed to an environment to sit in. But it really depends. We'll see where it goes with that. I'm not sure they've settled on anything yet, so we'll see. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Oh, I also got another question from a listener who asked about, can you do work in there? And there are collaborative workspaces, like a VR conference room with whiteboard. You can also remote desktop to your Windows PC. You can remote desktop in the VR space. He was asking if you could use the VR headset as a monitor, but I don't think that's possible yet. I'm not sure it would be kind of cool to have like a 56-inch screen, quote unquote, right, inside there. I mean, you could have a giant screen there.
Could do that Minority Report thing, right, where you're sliding the different pieces of the computer around.
Right,
that would
exactly.
That would be actually. Somebody needs to get on this. If nobody has gotten in this space yet, here you go. There's our $1 million idea that we're giving to you for free, right?
That's right. So yeah. So those are. And if you have other questions, feel free to ask. We'll try to do our best to research it, try it out, let you know before you have to plop the money down on it. We certainly want to do that. VR mass, wouldn't that be interesting to be able to sit participate in a mass. Some forward-thinking parish has got to get on this and put like a 360 VR camera.
Oh my gosh, a Vatican mass. And that would be. I would love that. That would be amazing.
Easter Vigil or the Christmas Eve midnight mass from the Vatican, sitting there in the front row. That would be really cool, actually.
That would be amazing. And you could just look around. Yeah, you could experience the whole thing. That would be incredible.
My 14-year-old, she loves to go to museums in Google Earth, and because a lot of museums the interiors are on Google Earth, and you can walk around in them. And she goes to museums all over the world. I mean, some of them I've never heard of, but like others, like she goes to the Chicago Art Institute, she goes to the Met in New York, and all that sort of stuff. And like, could you imagine again in a VR space being able to walk through these museums? Yeah, there's a lot of future in this. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. All right. So thanks, Bill, for your email. We love to get feedback from listeners. And everyone, if you got feedback, just send it to technology@sqpn.com. We'll be happy to talk about it. But our major topic tonight is we're going to be talking about, there was an article on the blog. I really enjoy this blog from Sophos, the antivirus company. They have a security blog called Naked Security. And this one was a blog post they had called Cybersecurity Tips for University Students. And you might say, well, why that specific? What makes them different? And well, when you think about university students, they live in an environment. They're living with lots of strangers in a somewhat intimate environment. So some fewer barriers than you would if you were in an apartment building, say, like if you're in a dorm. And you're also working in that space. And so I think it creates some unique challenges for them. But they had some tips, and we have some of our own we wanted to add. But was there something you wanted to, some like general advice up front for university students, or anything that we should consider in general, especially as parents, for example, if we're sending our kids to college, anything we should start with there?
I think the biggest thing to learn is that you're going onto a network environment. So where you've been at home before, and the home network is where your child has been used to working. Even if they had some experience at school, having one-to-one technology at school or being able to access computers at school, they don't necessarily know what goes into being part of an actual network. Whereas you, as an employee, probably do. You probably have a better idea of what it's like to be part of a network and have all of your electronics on that network and functioning through that network. So if you aren't educated about your own network at work, get there first, and just to call the IT department and say, hey, I was wondering, my kid's going off to college. I was wondering what kind of things you would recommend that they do, and, get a little bit of knowledge about where you are with your network as well. But then teach your child to think, okay, look, you're not just accessing the internet through the home router, right? You are going to be going through the school's router. So there's some things there that are privacy issues that you need to be aware of. And you're going to be probably connecting to the network. I know that when I was at college, I was connected to the network, and there was a lot of just shared folders, just shared drives
that people didn't know were being shared.
They didn't know. Yeah, they had no idea that, or they knew they were shared, and they were like, uploading pirated versions of all of their favorite movies and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was great. You could just go download whatever you wanted, and before I had any kind of impetus about the legality of what was going on with it, right? That's where a lot of things were. So, just to be aware of that stuff is going to be there. You need to be aware that it's not always secure to do that, first off, because just because somebody is sharing a folder from their computer doesn't mean that all of the stuff that they have is either safe from them or that they got it in a secure way that's not also infected. So there's just lots of layers there. Don't just trust anything you have access to just because you do.
That's a really good point. Yes. That's one of the things, like this kind of applies even if you go into hotels. If you ever use like a hotel network, how often you see like folders, Joe's public folder, or these various folders that show up from people's computers that they have their business people. So you want to help them lock down their sharing, but it's a really good point there when they're at home. Like in my home, I have an Eero, I have profiles, I'm protecting my kids. Once they're at the, outside the home, they're not under that umbrella protection. it's up to you to, with all the things you're trying to teach your child, going out into the world and being safe, this is another one you want to teach them, how to be safe in the world, how to, not get caught by scams and other things like that. So
Exactly.
That's a good point.
It's the new look both ways before you cross the street, right? That's kind of where we're at with the kids now.
The first tip that they give on this website, and it's compiled by the Sophos's got a college intern, and so that's her first work there. She as an intern, she's talking to other college students, which is really nice for her. But so the first tip is stick to HTTPS websites. Now, just to be clear, HTTPS refers to the address that you see in the address bar. The when you click up there, and some of the new browsers don't show the HTTPS until you click in the address bar, but it's HTTPS when you see a lock up there in the address bar. And what that means is you have a secure connection, more or less. It's more secure than the old HTTP. Can you explain quickly the difference between that?
Sure. I think the like, without getting too technical, here's the real rundown for what is important for people to know. A website that has that HTTPS is a vetted website. That means that they have gone through a little bit of an extra step. It has cost them a little bit of money to make sure that they are letting people know that their website is secure. So they've paid to have a certificate for their website that says our website is secure, and they have to pass some tests. So they, it's automated stuff. So it's not like it's a really big deal, but these companies that are issuing the certificates, they want the certificates to be secure, so they make sure that they run really good valid tests. So they try some cross-site scripting, they try a few different, they throw some different hacking things at the website just to make sure that it is actually a secure site. And then they issue the certificate that lets that website say to all the other domains, okay, this is a secure site. And so that's why you get that little lock up there, because that site is actually secure. And it's not like they can just make it an HTTPS website. They have to sign up with the certificate authority, and it's a serious issue for them to get an actual SSL license for their site.
Right. If you go to a website that is HTTPS and it doesn't have a certificate, or it's an expired certificate, your browser will pop up a warning saying there's a mismatch here. Exactly. I had that happen to me on my website when my certificate expired, and I was people like, "Hey, what's up with your site?" So it's one indicator among many. It's the first step. It doesn't mean you're safe. It doesn't mean that nothing can go wrong, or that it's even a trustworthy site completely. But it's one step in the chain of trust, if we could say. So that's a good one. The next tip that she gives is be cautious about scams, and that's a good one. I mean, that's a general one. I've been on the internet for, let's just say, decades. And so I've pretty much seen all of the scam emails, all of the phishing attempts, all of the badly spelled attempts to make me think that my bank is trying to contact me, et cetera, et cetera. And they keep coming up with new scams. Hey, I've got this video. I used your webcam to take a video of you, and to prove it, I have your email address or something. Now send me 5 Bitcoin. And duh. Like, I'm not falling for that. Born at night, not last night. But, younger people they haven't had that experience, that you need to help them learn about such things and learn to be suspicious. You don't want to go through life being suspicious of everyone. Be suspicious of everyone online.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, anyone who doesn't have a name, because I will tell you from personal experience that you will know when, if someone is threatening that they have something of yours that is compromising, or that they're shutting your website down for some reason, you will know. There's not going to be a shady email that doesn't have enough information for you to verify what's going on. They're gonna make sure that you understand that there's an issue.
Right. There are other scams like the Facebook Messenger hack, where someone, you get a Facebook message from someone who says, one of your friends, "Hey, this video was awesome. Click the link to watch it." Is this you in the video? Like, no. Don't click those things. There's a lot of these things where you and I go, oh, that's that's obviously something that, but there are still plenty of people well past college age who still fall for it. I mean, that's just the fact of life. So it really, it's really important to help your child learn, your young adult child learn how to detect these sorts of scams. You want them to not be scammed by the guy in the street or the person coming to the door or online. So those are that's another big one. Then here's a good one. Log out or lock your computer when you're not next to it, when you walk away from it, whether you're in the library, in a classroom, or in your dorm room. Even if you get up from your desk in your dorm and you go to the bathroom or something, make it a habit.
Yes.
Lock your computer.
And it's annoying because you're going to have to put your password in every single time, but trust me, you'll get fast with that password. So just Control-Alt-Delete, lock that screen every time you walk away.
Right.
And don't even rely on the timer. Just forget that there's a timer that's going to lock you out. Just every time, Control-Alt-Delete, lock the screen. Right.
Because, an unattended computer can be tempting for even a roommate, who's your friend. It's a temptation. Don't even give them that temptation. Keep them honest, keep them safe, keep them your friend. That's even when you work in an office, you should do the same thing too. It's just good practice. And in fact, if you have a newish MacBook with a Touch ID sensor, unlocking that thing is as easy as touching your finger to it. I mean, just make it. Yeah. It makes it so much easier. Or if you have an Apple Watch, you could use your Apple Watch to unlock your Mac. It makes it easy. So, yeah, always lock it. And if you're walking away from your computer in a public space, make sure you have some way of locking it to the desk or something like that. There are a lot of security things. And don't put it in a bag by the side of your chair or even behind your chair. If you're sitting down with your computer anywhere, in your bag or outside your bag, put the bag between your legs, wrap your leg in the strap, wrap it around you. One of the biggest tricks for thieves is to run by and grab and go, like just run out of a cafe or a classroom or whatever and grab the bag as they go. You got to, it's a little physical security of your stuff too. That's the other thing too. One of the things we always talk about, and we'll repeat it here: get a good password manager and use it.
This especially for college students, because you're going to be signing up for so many things, because you're going to get sick of making up new passwords. Just get it. It is worth the investment to buy a password manager of some kind.
Right. And then when you use it, use strong, unique passwords for everything. I mean, that's good. I'm going to have that carved into my tombstone. Strong, unique passwords for everything. And then have a QR code on my tombstone that goes to a password, one password's website. Yes, that'll be it. That's my legacy to history.
It should go to Have I Been Pwned? That's that's where you should send people to.
Right. Yeah. So now I want that was their list. I've added one of my own, which is get a VPN. Now, that's not a blanket, any VPN in a port in a storm sort of thing. You want a good VPN, not a free one. Free VPNs are usually, if the old saying is, if you're not paying for it, you're the product. And so if they're giving away the VPN, they're selling your internet usage data. You want a good VPN. I use Encrypt.me. ExpressVPN's another good one. There are plenty of them out there. You want the one that you can trust.
And they're really not expensive. They're not particularly expensive at all.
And use it. You just leave it running. Just have it running all the time, especially in a college environment. Then you don't have to worry about people sniffing your network folders and all that other stuff. You are secure straight through to your VPN's access point, and you're much better off that way. So definitely get a VPN. I saw one piece of advice that said get a VPN that's in your country. So if you're out of the country, if you're overseas or something, maybe a semester abroad, you want your VPN from home. That would be fine. You could do that. But don't get one that's I'm trying to think of if you're in the United States, don't get one from South America or Asia or Africa or something like that. Like, it may seem like a good deal, but that may be sketchy.
Yeah, and it can cause problems too, because there are a lot of websites now that have started region locking their the way the website works. So when you go to the website, it pops up whatever language they assume you're coming from. Like if you have a Portuguese VPN, you're going to be getting the website in Portuguese. So it's like, okay.
Right.
And that can be annoying at the least, but it can also cause a lot of issues with you trying to order things and buy things online. If you go to Amazon, there's times where Amazon won't show certain things to you depending on the region that you're in.
Right. And some of the good VPNs will let you choose what region you appear to be coming from. So, if you're British and you're going to school in the United States and you want to access the BBC's iPlayer, the BBC's online version of their software that's only for British citizens, you can access it and look to be coming from Britain. I'm not suggesting you do that if you're American trying to access British television. I'm not saying you should do that. I don't care if you do that. That's your business. But that's the sort of thing. So you could appear to be coming from different places. I mean, frankly, for people who come from totalitarian countries where things are bad, that's one way that they are able to access the internet safely. So it's convenient but it's also as a safety for some people. And then the last bit of advice I would give is and I qualify this: install antivirus and malware software, but don't install it so it's constantly scanning and the automatic bits. I have Malwarebytes. I really like that, but I run it manually on a schedule. I don't leave it running in the background because the antivirus and anti-malware software tends to be really resource intensive and bogs down your computer. So Malwarebytes is a good one. I'm running a Mac. I know Mac users always say this. There are, and we'll talk about it in a second. There are viruses on Macs. There is malware on Macs. They're less common, but I don't run regular antivirus software on my Mac. I do run Malwarebytes though. So I do suggest it, and I might suggest it if I were in a college, I might put antivirus on my computer.
Yeah, I would definitely put an antivirus. I think it's a good idea because there's just so much craziness going on, and you're on a network that's maybe it's being watched, maybe if you're lucky, depending on the college you're in. But there's so much shenanigans going on that there's no way for them to keep track of everything that's happening. So antivirus, malware for sure. You should never be running your computer without malware. I don't care what you have. And I'm in the same boat where I'm on Linux. There's no viruses for Linux. Right? Right. But, and the only reason, just so the listeners know, the only reason that people say that is because how could you possibly target anything on a Linux since every single box is completely different from every other box? Right. It would be a nightmare trying to write a decent virus. But there are things that actually do affect you on Linux. So I do run malware programs and antivirus programs on my even my Linux boxes. Even my Raspberry Pis, I have, some light malware programs on there too.
I'm gonna have to get from you the name of a good one for Raspberry Pi, because I realize I'm not running on mine. Mine runs unattended. I don't really access the internet, but it really should have something on there. So I'm gonna get that from you. All right. So I think that's pretty good. Any other? I think that covers it, right? Do we have any other tips?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think from a personal standpoint, I always love Amber Case's argument that we're all cyborgs now. Just really great TED Talk about this. If you haven't watched it, I definitely recommend going to see it. But one of the things that I think is really important to remember is that if you are a parent of a college-age kid, the things that they are experiencing in college are very different than the things that you did. Because, I'm coming from an age where Facebook wasn't even a thing when I was in college, right? And now they are definitely going to have that be part of their experience. They are maturing and growing up in a different environment than we did going to college. And for better or for worse, that is the life that they're going to be a part of. So if they have not been allowed to have social media accounts, get them social media accounts, at least one, teach them how it works, let them experience it at home where they can ask questions and field a little bit of the stuff that's going on, just bounce it off of you. We just got our 15-year-old just got an Instagram account, and she's been shocked by how great it is at times and then how awful it is at other times. So, it's a kind of an alternating mix, but it's been good that she's had it because it's gotten her that experience with just kind of getting a feel for what it's like and being able to ask questions of us instead of just being out there on her own. And, all of her friends pressure her into having a Facebook because that's the only way they keep in touch with each other. And now all of a sudden it's, or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it, even for the younger, like if you're the youngest you could be to have a college age student, there were no smartphones, there was no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram. And that is like you said, we're cyborgs now. All of these kids have these phones glued to their hands. It's a different world at college. When I was in college, I was the first, like me and this other guy, we were the first two guys in our program to have computers in the classroom, like laptops that we took notes on. And people were like, huh? And we'd also fight over the outlets in each class because we had a lot of classes together. But because the battery life was terrible. But so it's a different world, and you got to recognize that as a parent and be prepared to help your kids navigate it. All right,
and realize that you had the advantage of being able to go through your adolescence as an adolescent without all this craziness. And they're having to do both of those at the same time, right? So you got to experience social media as a separate adolescence. That's, I think, the best argument she makes in that talk is about the two adolescences that you've been able to have. But these kids, they have to do it all. Like they have to have their adolescence and have it all online at the same time.
That's a good point. All right, let's move on to thank our patrons. We want to take a moment to thank them for making it possible for us to create the Secrets of Technology, including this time Sean M., Mark C., Alan and Melissa K., Masige B., and John L. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. Now's a great time to become a StarQuest patron thanks to a generous gift from a supporter. When you start a new Patreon monthly pledge at sqpn.com/give, the first 3 months will be matched by an equal amount from our donor to support all our shows, including this one, which makes your gift go even further. And we're more than halfway to our goal of $2,000 in new monthly pledges, so won't you help us close the gap? If you've been thinking of becoming a StarQuest patron, and StarQuest, by the way, is a nonprofit organization. We are a Catholic apostolate, so we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So now's the time to help support us. Visit sqpn.com/give today. All right, so I want to start with that headline that I teased at the top of the show, which is Starship 10 SN10 launched today. As we talk about this, launched, landed, and exploded.
Right. Well, and after a failed launch too. They had a failed launch early in the day where it got all the way down to ignition, and then they aborted like immediately after ignition went. They aborted, and I told the kids, they're probably not going to do it again today. It's going to be another couple of days. And then my phone dings, just before the launch this evening. We pulled it up, we got it, we were watching. Oh man, it happened.
Yes, and to see it landing, like just after the two prior ones, they crashed. This one lands, and like there's a big cloud of exhaust. You're like, is it okay? Is it landed?
Right.
And you're waiting, and then the cloud of exhaust lifts, and there she is. It was
still
awesome.
Still tilted
standing
to the side and on fire, but still standing.
Yes. It's like, you skidding into the spot. The rear tires are on fire, and the bumper's hanging off, but you're in there.
Yeah. I think the amazing thing about it is that it's hard to get a sense of scale because you're watching this thing and you're not thinking this is an almost 14-story tall
it's like a building
piece of equipment. Yeah, it's a steel building that has just gone up in the sky 10 kilometers, sat there for a little bit, and then come back down, and it's like, wow. This is amazing. And then it landed. That's just incredible. I can't believe it. It's 160 meters tall. So it's
like a grain elevator. Actually, it's even taller than a grain elevator.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like they're launching a grain elevator over 6 miles into the air, and then hovering it. There's a shot that they had in the landing where, because it comes down horizontal, and there's a shot as it's coming down close and lighting the rockets again. It looked like out of a video game or a movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was amazing. And as you talk about, like they had to abort, I'm thinking if this were NASA in the 80s, they'd be like, oh, we had to abort. It'll be 6 months before the next launch.
Right, exactly.
Or a month and a half. Or, oh, we crashed one. We'll have to take a whole year and have a study and a commission. And and they're just like, nope, roll out the next one. Let's light it up and go. It's fantastic.
And I think the other thing, too, is that the SN10 is 2 or 3, I think, generations back from their newest version. So they have a much newer version. This is just the proof of concept to kind of make sure that everything works. And yeah, I just watched that moment watching it. Yeah, that moment watching it, just seeing it land and going, that's it. That's Mars right there. That's it. We can do this. It's not an unfeasible thing. I am stunned that this thing the size of a building has gone up into the sky, come back down and landed itself.
And landed. That's the thing. I just finished building the Lego Saturn V rocket. I got it up here. You can see it.
Nice. Yeah, I saw it up there in the background. I was going to comment on that earlier too.
And just looking at it and the scale of it, and I've seen the Saturn V up close. I went to Cape Canaveral and saw the one they have, inside the building, laying on its side, and it's just mind-boggling how big this is. And to think of like launching these things, and then the Sea Dragon. I don't know if you've seen For All Mankind, which is the alt history of the space agency of NASA on Apple TV Plus, but it imagines, what if the Russians had landed on the moon first in 1969, and then the divergence in history, all of the money we'd put into the space agency, and the Cold War would be a space race into the 70s and 80s and all this stuff like this. And so the Sea Dragon was a concept from the early 60s, and then they imagined that they actually built it. It dwarfs the Saturn V, and it launches from the ocean. So they float it out to the ocean. They fill the ballast tank so that it points up while in the ocean.
Got it.
And then launches from there. And the idea was it could launch like 5 times the payload of a Saturn V, and would and because it's in the ocean, it's safer, like it's away from land. And I'm like, just the idea that we could launch these things into space is so amazing. One of the things I wanted to mention is in relation to this is, you talk about we could go to Mars. Well, they're already planning for a trip around the moon by 2023 is what they're trying to do. And there's this Japanese billionaire named Yusaku Maezawa who is bought the first private trip. He's paying for a trip to the moon, around the moon and back. This first civilian lunar mission called Dear Moon, and he wants to take 8 people with him, because he's got the seats, right? And so he says, I'm going to take 8 people with me. And he's opened it up to anyone in the world. He's taken applications. At dinner today, I said to my wife, can I go to the moon?
Can I go?
She said,
go to the moon?
No way. I'm like, no, you never let me do anything good.
Oh man, I've told my kids I've applied for NASA as an astronaut. I've applied 3 times, and I'll probably apply 4 more times before I age out of the system. And it's really just it's a matter of not having an advanced science degree. So that's my next step. I'm working on that advanced science degree. But I've told my wife and kids, like, if they told me Mars, you're on the Mars mission, I'm in. I love you, but you're gonna lose me for 3 years because I'm going to Mars. There's just no way that anything is holding me back. So,
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, would you go? Would you go on this Starship mission in 2023?
I would. Yeah, I think it's I mean. I love this. I love this program. I've applied to SpaceX too, so I've applied to all the space agencies. Just so we're clear, I don't favor one over any other one.
I could learn Russian.
I absolutely learn Russian. I'll learn Chinese. No problem. But yeah, it's. I think I love space, and I love it just blows my mind. And my kids are sick of it, not sick of it, because it's always like, oh, Dad, sure. But then every time they go watch the rocket, they're like, that was so cool. And I'm like, exactly. That's like, there's no, you're not going to get to a point where it's not just mind-blowingly awesome to see humans do. I mean, what amounts to incredibly stupid stuff, right? I mean, like we're gonna just take a giant cylinder full of fuel and make explosions, push it up into space, right?
Hold my beer.
Exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But that we've made so many awesome advances from that and the math and science that goes into it is just incredible.
To go back to something we were talking about earlier, the Oculus Quest has an app or game called Mission ISS, where you go up to you're in the ISS and floating around and manipulating different things, and you're docking a Crew Dragon or something, or a cargo spaceship. I forget exactly which one, to the space station, and you're doing all this stuff and you're floating through it. I got a little. It can be a little disorienting because your ear is saying you're sitting down and your eyes are saying I'm floating through the space station.
Right.
So it can be a little disorienting, but it was awesome. I'm like, this is I was also an astronaut wannabe when I was younger. I went into Navy ROTC with the hopes of becoming a naval aviator and eventually becoming an astronaut. God had other plans for me, and so that didn't happen. But I never lost my love for space and the idea of space travel and getting into space. I would love to go. If this guy Yusuke Mazawa came to me and said, "I want you to be one of them," oh man, I'd think about that very strongly. I mean, gosh, the idea of it is fascinating. Just to see from the moon, see the Earth.
Yeah, is his the one that they had the applicants from the Super Bowl? Is that the mission?
I don't know if that's what it was. He was originally going to get not astronauts, artists. And he's recently opened it up. Anyone can be an artist, etc. But so I'm trying to. I don't think I see the. I mean, perhaps it was the same one. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's amazing. It's fascinating. These billionaires. It's Elon Musk and it's this guy and who is the guy who went up on the Russian one to the space station. Like he was the first civilian.
Oh yeah,
I forget his name.
I forget who that was, but yeah, the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's no longer the government spending money to send military test pilots into space. Now it's I'm a billionaire. Or Virgin Galactic, or or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. It's these guys who've got more money than they know what to do with, who are living out these dreams that they had as a kid, that are pulling all of us forward into space.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to rag on the astronauts that we have that have been to the moon and everything because they're incredible, man. They've done really great things. But there's this segment in the biography of one of the British aristocracy who I believe it was the Prince, and I think he met them, and he had all these questions for them, and he wanted it to be that they had these deep answers for him, and they were just not the guys that were going to have deep answers. That's just not the kind of guy that they were. So it's kind of good to have these philanthropists that are spending their money to go into space, and they're like, I want to take artists with me because these are the kind of people that wouldn't get to go, and then that's how you end up with something like OK Go's music video that they did in the
Vomit
the
Comet.
low G jet, the Vomit Comet. And so but that's how you end up with that kind of stuff, is when you get artists into a space that they normally don't have access to, and then that's how the interest for that kind of space grows. Because it's accessible to everybody else. It's not just scientists or test pilots, but it's actually a person who can see a different angle that those people wouldn't necessarily have access to.
Art expresses the depths of human nature, at least it should, and say something about the nature of God as well. And this is a whole realm of existence, of God's creation, that is new access to it. Like the creativity that would flow from those who could go into space and come back with that. I would love to see Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo or a great painter, Van Gogh or somebody, you know what I mean? Just see what they would bring back with them, or, a poet, or how they would bring back. I mean, Neil Gaiman in space would be, it would be great to see what he would write when he came back,
Somebody needs to make that happen. Good grief.
Exactly.
That would be awesome.
So it would be pretty cool.
All right. He would be the first one to leave the first book in space, just so you know. And he has a tendency to do that kind of thing. So
all right, let's another headline we have is this one from the BBC, which I thought was interesting. Their headline is "Spy Pixels and Emails Have Become Endemic." And what they did is they went to this new email company, this new email service called Hey. It's from the 37 Signals company that's done a lot of other really great, they used to call Web 2.0. I don't know what they call it now. Software that's online, but their service is all about privacy and rethinking email. Well, what they did was they looked at the use of invisible tracking pixels in emails. What it does is it allows the person sending the email, or a company sending an email, to know that you've opened it. They can also find out other information like where you are in a general sense, where your IP address is reported to be located, that sort of thing. When the email was opened, sometimes what kind of device it was, whether it's mobile or PC. And full disclosure, SQPN has a mailing list, and we use MailChimp, and they use the same sort of tracking technology to tell us, what percent of the emails are opened, what time of day they're most often opened, whether this particular person opened it, and that sort of thing, which helps us say, okay, people didn't like that email, so we shouldn't write it like that. Maybe we should write it a different way, and it helps us craft the emails to be better. On the other hand, some people really don't like that this feels a little bit like being spied on. What do you think about this?
My opinion of it has matured.
Yeah. Okay.
No, my opinion of it has matured.
All right.
It used to bother me a lot, but I think that being on the back end of the security stuff and knowing a little bit more about how those things come down, there really isn't. It's more of a very general kind of information that can be gathered, so it's not like it can get too gritty. The granularity of it isn't super fine. And really, I'm honestly at this point, because I use the internet, I'm becoming, for better or for worse, more comfortable with that. It's cookies, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like cookies for email.
Right. It is really the same sort of thing. I feel like people should know it's there. There should be some transparency in that. Like, you should know that when you open your email, someone will be able to tell that you've opened it and that sort of thing. So that should be fine. And there should be a way to turn it off. There isn't generally a way in most clients to say block just the tracking pixels. Like in Apple Mail, I can turn off all images or leave them all on. Well, if I turn them off altogether, a lot of the email is useless at that point, so I have to leave it on, which is fine. It doesn't bother me that much either. It's just an email. It doesn't bother me, that they know I opened the email or what have you. But yeah, I would prefer there to be transparency, but it doesn't bother me that they're there. And I'm
surprised that there's not. The GDPR made it so that they had to put the cookie warnings on all their websites. So I'm surprised that there's not more. I wonder if that's just an oversight that they didn't, go into that. It
is in GDPR, and in the UK also has a law, but it does say they have to require, the organization is required to inform recipients of the pixels, and in most cases to obtain consent. But the fact is informing is usually either at the very bottom of the email itself in tiny type, or it's on the form you use to sign up, that sort of thing. So we know privacy statements or terms of use statements. Who reads those, right?
Right.
But they're there.
That's
So,
true. Well, and I guess you do also for a lot of them. Once you've subscribed, you have to go and verify your subscription, right? So that I say that with air quotes. Verifying your subscription is really giving them permission to do this kind of stuff.
exactly. And yeah. So, I mean, I'm more concerned with, spam and that sort of stuff, and just, and it does bother me a little if, say, a spammer knows I'm opening up their email, that sort of thing. And so I don't know, it kind of is in the balance of things, I'm willing to lose a little bit of privacy for the convenience. And frankly, I'd rather that the emails be crafted better.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'd rather get better emails in ads.
Well, it's kind of like the ads, right? you get the better ads. I think it's fun because you can kind of watch from the user perspective, right? You can watch what's working, quote unquote, because you'll get 20 emails that are all about this particular thing phrased this exact way, and you're like, oh, somebody must have opened that email.
Yeah, right.
And you didn't open the email, but somebody did, and so it seemed to work. So like 20 different companies tried it. Now, okay, that's the way we're trying to phrase things now. Got it.
I'm not even sure how useful the tracking is in some cases, because like the way my email is set up, it comes in, and as I'm going through it, it automatically opens up each email, whether I'm reading it or not. Anyway, as I go through it, it shows up in like the right hand pane, and so. Is it really giving them useful data? I don't know if it is. I mean, it's telling them when I'm looking at my email, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think those pixels supposedly only load once the whole, like they're placed in the email in such a way that once the whole email is actually opened,
okay,
that's when that pixel gets read. So it doesn't get read on like the preview pane. Yeah,
right.
It's actually really creative. Like it's a very creative use of like a single pixel slot on your emails. So I get it, and I think it's really interesting that there's so much information that can be gathered. And this is another thing to learn, that when you go to a website, the website automatically knows some things about you, and that's something that everybody kind of needs to be aware of, is that the website knows where generally you're coming from because of the IP address that you're using. It knows what browser you're using. It knows what size monitor you have on your computer, because that's information that your computer's relaying to it to get a certain type
right size
of the website.
Window. Yep.
So there are things that you are giving information about yourself to whatever website you're going to as you are going through the internet. So you have to be somewhat comfortable with that.
Of course, if you're using a VPN, that can mask where you're coming from. That's one of the things it does, is it masks your IP address. So, and I think the Brave browser masks some of that other information as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I have my Vivaldi set up to do some of that too. And I'll tell you what, I just realized, this was a revelation to me the other day. I have not seen an ad on YouTube on my desktop in months.
Oh.
And it's because of Vivaldi. Vivaldi blocks the ads. And so like I'll get the skip button, but it won't show an ad. It'll just have a white screen, and I'll just be able to skip the ad.
That may be enough for me to
I didn't realize how comfortable it was until I started watching YouTube on my phone again, and I was like, why are there so many ads? And I was like, oh, that's right.
That's like going to watch live network TV after only watching like Netflix for months.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I have to sit through an ad. I can't even fast forward
through it.
All right. Last headline I want to talk about is this story about, speaking of malware, that the security pros have found malware on, they said 30,000 Macs worldwide. I'm not sure how they get that number. There must be something that tells them how many Macs are connected to a control server. So that's that's how this malware works. Someone's created essentially it looks like maybe a botnet where you have a whole bunch of computers that have the software surreptitiously installed that will allow a central server, a control server, to take command of all of them and have them all do a thing. What that thing is, from this software that they found, they're not quite sure. There's no payload, as they say, in the malware that they found, and it's fairly sophisticated, and it can even remove itself. Some of this makes it sound like maybe a nation state like security service or a very large organized crime syndicate or something along those lines. It seems very sophisticated for what it does. And some of the experts were even saying they think it might be a proof of concept.
Right.
Now
that's what it looks like to me, just reading through it. I haven't caught up with my security podcasts enough to know much more about it, but that it feels like a kind of, can we do this? Yes, we can. Okay.
Right. Now, if you have a Mac, no need to worry too much at this point. One of the nice things that Apple can do is they can, from their central location, they can disable particular software. So they've pulled the developer's certificate. So all the software that is installed it has to have a signed certificate, like we talked about before, from Apple, saying this is a known software. It's fairly easy to get, and but what that allows is Apple to say, okay, all Macs out there don't run software that's connected to this certificate. And so if you tried to launch this, or if it tried to launch itself, it would say can't run this software. So that's a little bit of protection. It also used Amazon Web Services and the Akamai Content Delivery Network. Both of those have blocked it as well. But that isn't to say that they can't come up with another developer certificate and another malware. The key is, like we said before, have anti-malware software, run it on a regular basis, protect your system, and have good security practices. Don't click on weird links and all that sort of stuff. There is not a Nigerian prince going to give you $5 million.
or nobody's offering you money. Seriously, it's just not happening.
No one wants to give you money for nothing. Rashid Hashimi is not giving you money. Have you seen that one? I've been seeing that phishing scam, that Rashid Hashimi, like every day, 3 or 4 of them. I don't like this really persistent guy. I just want to take his money.
I've got warranties. Man, like warranty companies.
We've been trying to contact you about your extended warranty.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Right now. Wow. Just
that's a big one.
And somebody put me on a timeshare list somewhere too. And I will tell you, the other day I had a guy who called and I said, "Is there a way to get off this list?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And he walked me through the process of how to get off the timeshare list. It was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. One of those guys calling like, "Can we buy your timeshare from you?" thing. And he's like, no, here's how you get off the list. Because I think for him, it's like, it's a waste of his time to have to call people that are on the list and don't need to be on the list.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. So that's our headlines for the week. So let's move on to our picks of the week. Thomas, what's your pick this week?
All right, so my pick this week is a website called mynoise.net. They have an app for the phone, but it's essentially just the website in an app version. So if you like the ease of just getting to an app, then that's awesome. But if you just want to do it from the website, you can. And this is a white, pink, gray, brown noise generator that so it generates all sorts of noise, but it generates like really cool soundscapes to do it. So it has like Tibetan bells, it has Irish landscape, it has the beach, and basically what it does is it has a bunch of sliders for volume for different ranges of sound. So your deep bass sounds all the way up to your high treble sounds, and you can adjust the slider. And I will tell you, man, it is amazing. You can find some spots where that sound for you, and it might be different for you from somebody else, just makes your head hum. And so you put your headphones in, you turn that thing on, and you just play with the sliders until you get something that works. And I've used it for meditation recently, and it will take you to another place. It is amazing.
What I like is it's categorized. The sounds are like, I need to focus in a noisy environment. I want to sleep, or I'm a student with ADHD, or I suffer from tinnitus, which, I know people who, and it has a neuromodulator, which is designed to squash your tinnitus, which is awesome. They have Gregorian chant, which would be nice. And like you said, there are sliders where you can emphasize different parts of the sound in that soundscape, where if you want to hear more of the birds in the forest, turn those up a little bit. Yeah, that is really cool. And it's like you said, it's free.
It's free, yeah.
I like I'm a role play gamer looking for background tracks, like an RPG dungeon.
Yeah, it's got all sorts of really cool kind of random stuff.
I may grab some of these for some of our shows, like for Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, sometimes we have little soundscapes for stuff.
There you go.
I've found a few things like that on YouTube, but this looks pretty fun too. I may have to look at that. That's awesome. That's a good one. So my pick is a little device I got for my MacBook. And so Apple famously a few years ago, they switched their MacBooks, their laptops, from having the MagSafe adapter so that if, let's just say for theoretically sake, a child goes running by your desk and their foot catches on the cable to the power cable.
Happens.
No, that would and sends your expensive laptop flying across the room. What would happen is instead the MagSafe with the magnet would release and the computer would stay nice and safe where it is. So, but a few years ago, Apple switched to, no, we want to have you plug in with a USB-C because USB-C is the future, right? And then many of us said, no. Well, this company called ElectJet has created a number of different of this sort of adapter for different. They have different ones for different computers. So you find the one that works with your particular computer. And so one thing is there's one part of the device you plug your USB cable into, and then it's magnetically connects to a little, almost like a flat bit that plugs into the USB port on your laptop, and they connect magnetically. It essentially recreates the MagSafe connector, and it powers your laptop through it. And if you pull it off, it unplugs really easily, almost as good as the original MagSafe adapter. So it's rumored that Apple has, in their forthcoming MacBooks this year, they've got some more Silicon Macs coming this year, that the MagSafe adapter is coming back. I'm guessing I'm guessing that
somebody at Apple had their laptop fall off their workplace because their cat walked on it or something, and they were like, no, we need this back. This is not.
Tim Cook got up from his desk and knocked his MacBook on the floor, and he said, put it back.
Exactly.
So
yeah, that's one of those conveniences that you don't realize how important it is until you make the mistake.
I mean, I was joking, but my son really did that. He flung my laptop off my desk running by, and I bent the cable. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, you could have broken the internals on the laptop and all that sort of, or the screen or whatever. So I was lucky, but yeah, right then I said, I got to find a solution, and this was a solution. And I should point out, it's not expensive. It was $22.50 for the one I got. Others are cheaper and more expensive depending on the features involved. So just keep an eye on those. But I'll put a link in the show notes. All right, I think that should do it for us this time. What do you think of our discussion? If you have feedback for us on any of the things we talked about, let us know whether you would take the trip to the moon on the Starship in 2023, whether that would be something you'd do. Let us know, and let us know why you would or would not. We'd love to hear from you. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or at the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send us an email to technology@sqpn.com. And of course, we'll have links to everything we talked about and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. If you could, we really appreciate it. In fact, some of you have done this in the past. We would really appreciate it if you could go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from and write a review. It really, really helps a lot, and we really depend on that to help get the news out about the website, so about the podcast. So if you go to their website and do that, and share the podcast with your friends. Help them. This is why we're doing this. This is about getting information out and helping people with their technology. So until next time, Thomas Sanero, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It has been a pleasure to be here.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.